This is Find Your Dream Job, the podcast that helps you get hired, have the career you want, and make a difference in life. I'm your host, Mac Pritchard. I'm also the founder of Mac's List. It's a job board in the Pacific Northwest that helps you find a fulfilling career. Every Wednesday, I talk to a different expert about the tools you need to get the work you want. You may want to show employers that you're flexible, or perhaps you're not sure what to do next. So when someone asks what you want in your next job, you say, I can do anything. Shannon Bloom is here to talk about why you need to stop saying this. She's a certified leadership, career, and executive coach. Shannon's company, Radiant Firefly, helps you shift your mindset, get clear about what you want, and bring it to life. She joins us from Washougal, Washington. Well, let's get going, Shannon. Why do you think it feels so natural for many of us to say, I can do anything when we talk about our job searches?
For sure. I'm going to start by saying that a couple things around what I believe. And that is that I think that every single person listening right now is creative, resourceful, and whole. And they come to this moment right now with loads of experience and achievements and leadership skills. And I say that regardless of what position, industry, or title that you've held. I believe that with my whole heart. And I also believe that everybody has innate superpowers and values. And those superpowers are those that are unique to you, how you approach different problems and problem solve. If we don't take the time to know what they are for ourselves, how can anybody else possibly know what they are, whether it's our networking environment, interviewing, and so forth? This podcast is about finding your dream job, and if you go on the I can do anything approach, I believe that there's three things that could potentially happen. One is that if you're open to anything, that's probably what you're going to get. And sometimes doing this strategy can be just a band-aid where you kind of end up in another job where you're not fulfilled or you're not in something that's really making you happy. The second thing is I think that people believe in this really tough job market that we're in right now, saying I can do anything is a really good strategy. It seems right. I'll do whatever job comes along. But I really believe that it's going to make your job search longer because you're too broad that nobody can really understand what you really want. Which leads me to my third point is other people are going to be laser focused, targeted, and you're not going to shine as brightly as the competition if you're just going to be broad and open to anything. I hear people for years saying, I just need a job. And I get it. It's real. We have bills to pay. We need to thrive and so on and so forth. But for the reasons I just stated, I think that I can do anything is a really poor strategy.
Well, thanks for that broad picture. Let's unpack it. What do employers hear? What kind of message are they getting when, in your experience, when a candidate says, I can do anything?
Yeah, whether it's employers, or friends, or colleagues, I believe that people truly want to help you and they want to connect you to where you want to go. But people are really, really busy. People are full with their own jobs, family, friends. There's so many things vying for people's attention, the news, social media, you name it. We are very full these days. And not being targeted or specific about what you want to do, people just don't know how to help you. And I have two short examples to share here. Is on LinkedIn, for instance, a person would get laid off and then they would go to LinkedIn and say, unfortunately, I lost my job after a fun stint at XYZ company and I'm on to my next adventure. And I see those messages come up and I'm like, what title are you looking for? What kind of impact do you bring to the table from your last job that can maybe give some value that people understand? And finally, where do you want to go? And that leads me to the second example is how I operate. I've been networking and community building for years. So I'm constantly looking at LinkedIn. I want to connect people, but if you don't tell me that you want a job, I can never help you. Just recently, I was able to connect two women to software engineering jobs with an engineering manager that I adore. Love that I was able to get some more women jobs in tech. And honestly, Mac, there was a woman that I talked to at your last event where I was able to connect her to a role just from her getting to know me. But that took vulnerability and bravery for telling some stranger at an event what she's looking for. It is 100% up to us as job seekers to make sure that nobody has to work hard to infer our value or all the cool stuff that we bring to the table.
Okay, so if you don't tell people what you want, where you want to go, and what you offer, you're making it difficult for them to help you. And in your experience, people do want to help others, don't they, Shannon?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you talked at the start about why people will say this. They got bills to pay. They're eager to get going on their next opportunity. And you shared some of the points that people should steps they should take instead. Let's talk about those. You mentioned the importance of understanding your values and your superpowers, Shannon. Tell us more about this. What do you mean by your superpowers and your values, and how can getting clear about them help you figure out what to do next?
So it kind of stems from that last bit that I just said about we're really responsible for making sure that people don't have to work hard to and for our value. And I really try to get people to think about, as job seekers, we are our own marketing and sales team, where our marketing is our assets. It's our resume, our LinkedIn profile, our portfolio site for the engineers in the room. There are the GitHub profiles, writing samples, you name it. And your sales is how you talk about yourself, like the words that cut. You could have the most incredible resume, but once you're in a room and you get to tell people how good you are and what your value is, and you can't do that, that's going to be hard. The industry statistics have been out there. Hiring managers will only look at a resume for about 10 seconds before they decide if they're going to move on to look at their resume or not. And we need to think about the title on our headline on LinkedIn and our resume summaries like headlines. What are the things that you're clicking on in the news and social media that's getting you to read and engage in? We need to think about ourselves that exact same way. And when we talk about ourselves, what are the things that light you up? Like if I ask a software engineer if they like to code, sometimes their facial expression will tell me everything without them saying a word. And so, what is that for you? And so the closer that we can get to that, the more important it is. And you had asked about like the importance of your values and your superpowers. It's doing that deep excavation about what makes you unique and special and not just a lather, rinse, repeat of every other resume and stuff that's out there. The things that make you impactful, the achievements that you've done, what naturally makes you thrive in different environments.
So those are the questions you might ask yourself. What's have you seen work well for a process for someone who's trying to identify their superpowers and the values? What has worked well for your clients?
Before you do a job search and you just put out a resume, stop. Take some undivided time and start to do a little bit of a download of all those cool things that I was talking about that you've done. Do a deep dive before you do anything else. Sit down and get really clear on what you accomplished. If you have stats that you improved ROI or retention or increased presence or something like that, I want to know about that. What do people remember you for? Can you talk to former colleagues or clients? Do they have something that they can say to you? I encourage people, and I have been for years, to take assessments, something like Strengths Finders or the 16 personalities. People are seen in them all the time, and the results give people a download of some really cool information to highlight those soft skills and those innate superpowers that I was talking about, that so that you could stand out in that area.
And when you do that, Shannon, you identify your superpowers, you get clear about your strengths, you understand what your accomplishments were.
Mm-hmm.
How does that help you narrow your focus and not be open to anything, but focus on getting your next job?
It takes you from having that resume that looks like a lather, rinse, repeat. And let me back up for a second. Most resumes, when I look at them, they kind of resemble a job description. I did this, I did that, I did this. And like we can take into account a teacher because it's really easy for people to infer a lot of things. They teach classes, they create curriculum, and they code, they grade things. But what are the cool stories behind how they're able to increase test scores and get people into college, and what are the percentages of that, or what did they do to make engagement better. There's so many cool stories that people have, and those are the things that are missing from so many resumes that I see, and it's what makes you unique, interesting, and special, and it's going to be what makes you stand out from the crowd.
All right, well, let's pause there. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Shannon Bloom will continue to share her advice on why you need to stop saying, I can do anything. We're back in the Maxless studio. I'm talking with Shannon Bloom. She's a certified leadership, career, and executive coach. Shannon's company, Radiant Firefly, helps you shift your mindset, get clear on what you want, and bring it to life. She joins us from Washougal, Washington. Now, Shannon, before the break, we were talking about why you need to stop saying, I can do anything. And in the first segment, we talked about why many of us will say this when we look for work, and what happens when you do, how it can make it much harder for your network, your friends and family to help you, and why and especially to compete against people who know exactly what they want. We started to talk about how to figure out what to do next, and you talked about the importance of knowing your superpowers and your values. Another tip you share with your clients for figuring out what you want to do next is to use AI to brainstorm what you want. Tell us more about that, Shannon. How can AI tools help you get clearer about your next step?
Sure. The downloading of all of your accomplishments and achievements and taking assessments and reflecting on the work that you really love to do and you don't like to do as much are great foundations for what you want to do. But now where your target is going is what do I want to target this all to? And this is where the fun part can be, because it's kind of like the design your life. We're going to like search out the options and see what feels best to us and see what's exciting. And so I have clients go to AI. I've been using Claude as the AI agent these days, and put this information in your assessments, your current resume, all these things that you accomplished and that you're excited, the things that you want to do more of, and ask it, what kind of jobs or maybe what industries would you recommend me seeking out based on where I want to go next? And I find even people who have years of experience in something the same still struggle with this question of where to target themselves for. The results are really, really cool that give people some options to think about.
Okay, so you're plugging in your strengths, results of assessments, and you get a list. How does that list help you get clarity? Are you getting a list of industries, job titles? What exactly is the result in your experience?
Well, it depends on what you ask it. You can ask for certain industries and you can ask it jobs, or you can ask it both. I'd ask, what are the things that are most important for you that you're seeking out? Do you want to stay in the same industry? Do you want to stay in a different job title? And a quick example that I have is I was working with a gentleman the other day, and I just put in this information surfacely. I didn't have a lot of deep information on him. And he has about 10 years left in his career, and he's so bored at his current job, but he has no idea where he wants to go. And I did this surfacely for him. It gave me a list of options, and I looked at them and I said, oh, these are really, really extroverted facing jobs. And this man just told me that he is a self-proclaimed introvert. So I asked the same chat, what about if this person was introverted? And it gave me a list that actually energized this man quite a bit. And he's like, maybe I will take that brave, scary step and try something out new based on some of these things. So it kind of like really helps the brainstorming process when you feel stuck.
What's your best advice for creating prompts when using Claude or other AI tools to get the results that are going to be practical and help you get clarity about what you want to do next?
Well, some of the ones that I mentioned already, where are you at in your career? What is most important to you? Are you looking to take on a role that's going to challenge you more than your previous role? Are you looking for a different industry? And so getting clear about some of the things that you want to entertain and asking prompts like that is going to be super helpful.
Okay. You're a big fan of networking. And tell us why networking is so important when you want to figure out what to do other than anything. You want to get that clarity in your next move.
Yes. And you're right. Networking and community building has been paramount, and I believe in it with my whole heart. But unfortunately, I think that most people face it with dread because they feel like they have to go and ask somebody for something. But the stats have never lied in this area of the world. 70 to 80% of jobs are gotten through networking. About 70% of jobs are never listed. And I'm reading a lot of reporting right now that with AI right now, and there just being a flood of resumes coming in and fake resumes and misinformation coming in, that people are really saying that networking is more important than it ever was because people are looking for trust and less transactional relationships and somewhere they can lean into. So if you're not doing this relationship building piece, you're missing out on a lot of that.
Okay. And this comes after you've gotten clear about what your strengths are, the first tip we
Hmm.
talked about. Second is figuring out what you want. So you know what you know what you offer, what you want. Now you got to go out and find it. And you've talked about the importance of networking to do that. Why do employers care so much about referrals?
Because they generally come from people that they trust and they're going to take that seriously.
And you also talked about jobs that go unadvertised. Why aren't many positions, the estimates range from anywhere from 25 to, you mentioned 70%. Why are these jobs not posted on places like Indeed or LinkedIn or even MaxList?
Well, it costs money sometimes to list these jobs in places, and some companies have enough brand awareness. Like, I'm not sure if I've ever seen Apple post a job on LinkedIn before because everybody knows that company and they're going to go to their website and they're going to go look that up. And so, seeking out other job lists such as Max List over LinkedIn or talking to people is going to be paramount because you'll never know that those opportunities exist unless you start building relationships and getting curious about what people are hiring for.
Your final tip is to tell the world what you want to do. So you're clear about your strengths. You have figured out what you want. You're going out and talking to people. Why is it important to tell others the specific job you want instead of saying, I can do anything?
If nobody knows that you exist, if nobody knows what cool stuff that you've done and all that you bring to the world and what you want, sometimes that question, what do you want in this life, is one of the hardest things for people to answer. But being able to be specific in how you talk about yourself is going to make it a bazillion times easier for people to make it easy to help you. And so I encourage people to be vulnerable, be brave and courageous, and go out there and tell people what you're looking for specifically. Don't be afraid of it, own it.
How would you suggest somebody do that? Say, you and I met at a coffee or a networking event. What's the best way for me to tell you in 1 or 2 minutes what it is I want to do and where I want to go and what I offer?
I would start with getting curious and talking to the person that you're talking to. What do you do? If I were to meet you, you would be a gem, Mac. I hear you have a job board and you connect people with this networking event. And I'm looking for a job in what industry, kind of like what I was saying about those LinkedIn advertisements. I'm in this industry. Here's some cool impact that I've had. I'm really excited about this. And finding those gems that are going to light you up inside to connect with people.
And what happens in your experience when you deliver that message? You say what you want, where you want to go, and what you offer. What is the person who hears that? What are they going to think, and what might they do next?
Sometimes they might be like, oh, my brother's friend is hiring for this really cool job because you were really specific about what you're doing and what you need.
So that's very different from saying, hey, I'm doing a job search and I could do anything, isn't it?
Sure is.
Okay. Well, it's been a great conversation. Now, Shannon, tell us what's next for you.
Yes, I offer coaching packages where I actually walk people through this from nuts to bolts through building a resume, doing mock interviews, and having value statements because I truly believe in being able to talk about yourself is important. I have an ebook and a self-guided course where you can do this work as well to kickstart your job search. And I am launching a community called Momentum Lab where people can come in and do this stuff in community because doing it alone is much harder doom scrolling than having support and people around you. And I find people flourish in that.
Terrific. Well, I know that our audience can learn more about you and your work by visiting your company's website. That URL is radiantfirefly.com. And you also invite people to connect with you on LinkedIn. When you do reach out to Shannon, please tell her that you saw or heard her on Find Your Dream Job. Now, Shannon, given all the great advice you've shared today, what's the one thing you want our audience to remember about why you need to stop saying, I can do anything?
You know, Mac, we have this one precious life that we get to live, and you are so worth having your dream job. And so put in the hard work, do the effort to build the thing, and most importantly, take care of yourself along the way. But never forget that you're worth doing this and you're worth advocating for and for people to know about.
Thank you for listening to Find Your Dream Job. You can support our show and help others find it by leaving a review and rating on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Have a question or a suggestion? Email me at mac@maxlist.org or connect with me on LinkedIn. To make sure you never miss an episode, sign up for our free weekly newsletter at maxlist.org/podcasts. This show is produced by MaxList. Susan Thornton Huff schedules our guests and writes our newsletter. Lisa Kislenberry Anderson manages our social media and creates our transcripts. Our sound engineer and editor is Megan Hattie Stoll. Our music is by Freddie Trujillo. This is Mac Pritchard. See you next week.